going to take you back to a simpler time in technology. 25 years ago, when a social network looked something like this. Spotify didn't exist, but we had Napster when it was super hard to know if the file you were downloading was going to mess you up. We didn't have smartphones, but we had Palm Pilots. Does anybody remember the Palm Pilot? Black and white screen with a special stylus pen. And you had to learn a whole new way to write letters. They called it graffiti in order to put a word in there. The World Wide Web was chaotically messy. This is what a search engine looked like. It was impossible to find anything. There was even a search engine where I was convinced there were people dressed as butlers answering your questions. And then a disruptor came along. It simplified this whole search experience. It used inbound links to work out what pages were actually going to be valuable. It didn't fill the home page with advertising. And it started small, but eventually killed the competition and became a big monopoly. And the trouble with being a big monopoly is 25 years later, you risk getting disrupted yourself. And they were slow on probably the most influential technology of our lifetimes. And I'm not going to play the whole of the keynotes from their developer day this May, but I'll just give you a couple of very little edited snippets to see if you could work out what the subtle underlying message was throughout their developer event.
AI.
Do you see the subtle message?
I found the AI really
No,
useful.
we're not irrelevant. We haven't been left behind. Okay, I think you get the point. And I guess lots of us are going to be disrupted by AI because it's coming for us. I have made my living writing words on what used to be paper, and I've been disrupted. I wrote a book, as Bruno said, went to about 20 countries to try and find examples of real, transformative, exciting, technology-led innovation. And then the publisher said, David, would you record the audiobook? So I spent 3 days in a windowless room in a studio in West London. And after I'd done it, sore throat, losing the voice, I discovered there was an AI company that could have done it in 10 minutes.
Imagine turning your book into an audiobook in just 10 minutes. Now you can using audiobook.ai for 10 times less than paying a voice talent. All you have to do is upload your book to audiobook.ai, select a voice from
And by the
over
way,
30 natural
the voice you're
sounding
hearing,
voices.
synthetic.
And in 10 minutes,
It's
you
a
can
synthetic
download
voice.
your
And then I realized I didn't even need to write the damn book. I could have got an AI to write it for me. So we're at that moment when, no matter what you're doing, there is a chance that AI can do elements of it more efficiently, faster, cheaper than you. And we get quite anxious about this. And it seems like a threat. And it seems chaotic and unregulated. So it's really quite exciting for me to be in the place that likes regulating things. And you're getting really keen to regulate the AI. And it's kind of controversial about to what extent can you regulate it. But it's not just here. It's happening in the States. My government, which doesn't have any money to spend, thinks if it regulates AI, maybe that can create some kind of national economic advantage. But it's happening in Peru, in Chile. And we're telling the wrong story. Most of the media coverage of AI is about this great existential threat to humanity, kind of not helped too much by this guy.
I mean, with artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. You know those stories where there's the guy with the pentagram and the holy water, and he's like, yeah, he's sure he can control the demon. Didn't work out.
So the story is not the existential risk. The story is not we're going to be obliterated as a species. I think the story is we're not prepared for the practical implications of cognitive skills being embedded in objects all around us, accelerating productivity in all sorts of tasks that humans do. So I'm going to bring you back to now, and a really good way of seeing where the future in tech is going is to look at the trends coming through Y Combinator, which is probably the most successful company builder in the world in San Francisco. And this demo day, about 70% of the companies were pitching about businesses using AI to disrupt. And I'll give you a couple of examples just so you can see how widespread the use cases of AI in creating new types of businesses are through Y Combinator. One of the companies pitching, the founder wasn't actually pitching, she got an AI avatar to pitch.
My name is Lena, and I'm the CEO of Infinity AI. Actually, no, I'm not Lena.
It's not perfect, but
I'm
it's
an
starting
AI
to
clone
show
of Lena,
what
and
is
you
going to
are
be
watching the
possible,
first
and
ever
it's cheap.
AI-generated demo day.
What about if you run a big organization? Let's say you're Bruno and you want to send a personal message to everybody coming back in September to the Merode.
Hey everyone, I'm
Here's a
Ari,
startup
engineering
that
manager at
customizes
Tavis.
video
I have to admit, I was too
1,000
busy to record
times.
this video, so instead, I generated it with my digital replica using a script I wrote. Today, I'm excited to announce the launch of our breakthrough AI video model,
The lip
Phoenix.
sync,
And the best part,
the customized
we're making
voice.
it available to developers.
This is just
Imagine
another
your users
early
can make
stage
their very
startup.
own video like this.
There were startups at Y Combinator pitching very, very localized street corner by street corner weather using AI. There were AI companies, this one is called DraftAid, that would work with you on your product design, architecture, designing a house. There were companies like EdgeTrace that used AI to scan thousands of hours of CCTV footage so you could search for what you wanted. There were companies using AI to design proteins for biology, for science, for new medications. Putting cognitive abilities into otherwise not intelligent items such as drones. And that was just one demo day. And it's been strange to see how quickly things have accelerated. I find it really hard to keep up. You don't read social media for 2 days and suddenly you've missed that there are companies like Suno that can customize songs, all written by AI, according to your personal taste. If you want a particular kind of Bollywood, it will write that song.
Balle balle, get ready to go. Feel the rhythm, let your body move. Dolby's hopping through the night. Everyone's dancing under the sun.
It's coming for the creatives. It's coming for all of us. One of OpenAI's projects, Sora, you just type into the prompt box, I want a dog on a beach in Maui taking a particular type of selfie, and it creates animated video. It's moving super fast. We've crossed the linguistic barrier. Mark Zuckerberg does not speak Hindi, but he gave an interview to Lex Friedman, the podcaster, in which he was speaking Hindi. This is a company called Sync Labs, but it's one of many startups that are changing the game. If you're selling in Brussels, why not sell to Romania? Because the language barrier has gone. What about Runway, that's making synthetic characters in your synthetic video? So one of the things I'm constantly getting surprised by is how the people in these professions, in filmmaking, in music, are not necessarily seeing this as bad news. They're not necessarily seeing it as an existential threat to the way they work. I was talking to this gentleman who's an Oscar-winning filmmaker called Shekhar Kapoor, and he has spent his career with hundreds of extras making amazing, ambitious movies like Elizabeth. And I was talking to Shekhar and saying, this must be bad news for your business. He said, no, not at all. It's tremendously exciting. It's another piece of my toolkit. If I hire people now, I'm not going to be interested in what they learnt at film school. I'm going to be hiring them because of how good they are at that text prompt. I'd assumed that if you need psychotherapy, an app would not help. You'd want to talk to a human therapist. And yet, I had to unlearn. This is one of a bunch of therapy apps, Replica. It's an AI therapist who talks to you. A few months ago, there was a peer-reviewed journal that covered 1,000 people who had used Replica, and it had quite a high percentage of them had said to the researchers, yeah, when I was feeling really down, there were times I could have taken my life, but my AI therapist stopped me. It felt like somebody was listening to me. Now, I think the reason why I'm being surprised and you're being surprised is because things are moving at this crazy exponential pace. And for exponential, it's that doubling and doubling of graphs that go like this. And this little guy runs NVIDIA, a company that makes the chips that are powering the generative AI moment. And this shows that in the 8 years from 2016, as he's launching a new chip, we've gone to 1,000 times the compute power, and we're still rising. And the thing about exponential curves is they tell you what's around the corner. They tell you what's going to be significant. And this is one of the most influential exponential curves of the last year or two. And it shows how effective the machine has been at performing human-level cognitive tasks. And this is over the last 25 years. That black straight line is as good as a human. And handwriting recognition started out really badly, it's the blue, but about 10 years ago, 11 years ago, the machine got really good at recognizing handwriting. What about recognizing images? It only really got going 2009, 2010, and very quickly, the machine knew what it was looking at. Neural networks, transformers. But look at what's been happening more recently. We've gone almost vertical. Writing code, that's the orange. The machine has gone from nowhere to being better than humans. Doing common sense, answering questions. Don't ever bet against a curve that's going like that. And I guess when I was running Wired, the thing I was always looking out for were these curves. Somebody, when I was editing, sent me this picture and said, you know what that is? 3 megs of computer storage being uploaded to the cloud. 1956. And if you think about 3 megs of storage, that's just one photo on your iPhone. Because Moore's law, because something that was expensive, scarce, over time, when there's that doubling and doubling happening, becomes free, ubiquitous. We don't even see it as technology. It's just there. And never before have we moved so steeply up those curves as we have with generative AI. This is how long it's taken a new tech launch to get to 1 million users. Twitter, 2 years. Facebook, a year. 5 days for OpenAI. But it has a real impact. Quality, the ability to transform our expectations. This is Mid-Journey, just over a year and a half. Look how the quality of the images has gone from, yeah, it's a computer, to this is a human being. So I'm going to kind of share maybe 10 observations, but in the context of what we do with this technology, and can we regulate it, and if we do, will it care? And I think the starting point, as I've alluded to, is no matter what you're doing, if you're in financial services, if you're in media, and if you're in logistics, it's going to change things. It's going to cause disruption. But it's not necessarily bad news. Yes, it's going to mean change. Yes, it's going to mean unlearning, relearning. Yes, there's going to be people in the short term left behind that haven't yet got the new skills. But if we're honest, we don't want to be working in a world where this is the expectation. We don't need in our offices what until 50 years ago was pretty common. You know, this is a study of the proportion of the population in various European countries that's been working in agriculture. In the 1960s, half the Spanish population. It's not such bad news that we've managed to automate agriculture and still feed more people. So we need to prepare for change. We need to manage change. But I don't think we need to see it as something that we must stop. But people get scared. People start to protest. People start to express their anxiety. This is the screenwriters in Hollywood, but I think it's just going to be the start, because it seems likely that automation is going to hit lots of jobs in lots of sectors in a very, very short time period. When autonomous cars are given the approval, autonomous trucks maybe soon after, it's going to change the employability of those drivers. Already, Waymo is growing like this in its use case in San Francisco, where it's regulated. Regulators are going to face that political pressure to try and do something. And maybe you can't always do something, because tech doesn't care about politics. It's just there, doubling and doubling. But aspects of this tech should be regulated, because they're not always acting in our collective interests. First of all, as we know, if you allow an algorithm to determine an outcome, it has the embedded biases of the people who programmed it. And we've got lots of granular case studies. ProPublica did a wonderful piece of research looking at the bias in car insurance premiums in black neighborhoods in the US. There have been lots and lots of these studies. People more likely to be pulled over by police because the algorithm says. Longer jail sentences and so on. And if we believe in liberal democratic values, we probably want to make sure that the market is not targeting certain types of people to give a harder outcome to. So we do need some level of enforced fairness imposed on the companies producing these algorithms. And at the same time, we need to ensure that it's not just an elite that gets the benefit, because when there are a small number of companies controlling the large language models, controlling access, maybe there's going to be a price barrier. Maybe there's going to be other forms of accessibility restriction. And a bit like electricity, AI should be able to benefit whoever you are without permission from a private company. And I think we've been lulled into complacency. You can go and play with ChatGPT without paying money. What happens when your livelihood, when your ability to educate your kids depends on access to a small number of companies, language models, and they decide to play dirty? And I guess that leads me to a wider question, but that's where regulators do come in, which is when you have a small number of companies dominating an industry, it inhibits entrepreneurial competition. It means if you want to start a small company doing something different, if you want to be the next Sergey and Larry in a garage launching a new search engine, well, they try and stop you. And I think that's where regulation is absolutely mandated. But regulation, setting constraints in itself isn't the answer. Because we are in a city with its own entrepreneurial culture, in a continent with clusters of creative entrepreneurial talent everywhere. And we can't constrain them because the entrepreneurs, in an unpredictable way, in a chaotic way, in a Darwinistic way, only a few will survive, but they are going to build the future that we need. And I've been asking a few of the entrepreneurs building AIs in Berlin, in London, in other places, what they see that they think is the opportunity that maybe the rest of us, the big institutions, aren't seeing. And I'll just give you a couple of examples just to get you a sense of what's happening on the ground. This is a German company that's building AI agents. It's creating little AIs to do tasks in small businesses, medium-sized businesses. They'll process your invoices. They have an AI agent to do your emails, to do your vendor communication. The company is called Beam AI. I asked the founder, Jonas, if he could explain to us just briefly what the opportunity is that he saw. And I think it's always worth listening to fast-moving, ambitious entrepreneurs because they see things that the rest of us don't yet see.
Hi, my name is Jonas. I'm one of the co-founders of Beam AI. And in my career so far, I started in consulting at McKinsey. Then I did a couple of startups, founded a German unicorn. And then 2 years ago, I sat with a friend from my studies and we said, well, AI is growing exponentially. Humans are not. What are we going to do? And we said, well, let's build AI agents that can solve jobs very similarly to humans. And this is now what we do with Beam AI. We essentially create AI agents and we use them for various back office tasks within organizations. That might be for insurances, this might be for large industrial companies, or this might be for healthcare companies. And really how we think about it is ultimately that we build AI that gets the job done. So back to Clayton Christensen.
And he's not thinking about, is this going to take jobs away from the humans? He's talking about AI agents that will get the job done. Because it's efficient, it's scalable, it's tech. This is another startup I have got to know. It's, again, using AI to write the code for what it's building. It's called iGent. And this is Sean, the founder. So you're writing AI that can write its own code?
Absolutely, and in fact, 90% of our product has been built by our product over about 7 generations.
Sorry about the sound quality, it was raining. But
that sounds
90% of the product is built by the product.
And it's one of the rare moments where I get a shiver down my spine around what the system is pulling off at least once every few days. And I would also say that the safety implications of what we are building has been something that's been
He's
baked
worried
into our
about the
entire
safety
company culture from
implications.
day one. For instance, everything it does is under highly secure sandboxes so that it can't go self-replicate across the internet. We don't trust it with any API credentials or secrets, so it can't go rogue and spin up your AWS
So he's
instances
worrying
on
that
its
the
own.
software
And
his
there's
company's
tons of
producing
layers in
could
terms
go
of
rogue.
ensuring that you're
And he sees an
biasing its
ethical
use towards
responsibility
proper and ethical
to what he's
applications.
doing.
We'll refuse to make malware.
We're at the very early moments of this transformation, and it's going to take founders regulating themselves more than it's going to take regulators coming in with a new rule set. I'm going to give you 5 more good news observations. And one of them, I think, is we can choose despair, we can choose to see this as a threat, or we can choose to look for the positives. We can choose optimism. And I'll just give you another little exponential curve, which is probably my favorite of all. This is GDP around the world from a couple of thousand years ago to now. And look what technology has enabled. Partly fertilizers, partly antibiotics, but essentially tech has taken billions of people out of poverty. And the big opportunity is AI can boost productivity on a massive scale, can provide for us in all sorts of ways, can decarbonize by creating new materials, can solve health problems at scale through simulation. The media story tends to focus on the dark side, on what could go wrong. And the truth is, there's always going to be the bad guys who use technology. Sometimes super creatively, but they're going to use technology. When I was running Wired, one of my favorite stories was about the Colombian cartels who built autonomous Kevlar-coated submarines to carry the cocaine because it's where the money was, and they could get past any defense through these undetectable submarines. And yes, deepfakes are a threat. They're a threat to elections. They're a threat to financial institutions. Be careful when you are on that Zoom call with colleagues that tell you, actually, you've got to transfer money to this bank account. We have a structural engineer company called Arup in the UK, and a young employee in their Hong Kong office made a mistake in a company Zoom call, transferred quite a lot of money to the wrong people.
The cost of doing business proved to be astronomical for a finance worker in Hong Kong who was duped into handing over millions of dollars after being tricked by deepfake technology during a call.
Although I actually find it more interesting that every time we talk about a hacker, they look like this. Have you noticed this? So if you are a cybersecurity person, just look for people like this. You'll get the bad guys. Sometimes they have numbers running around their faces, sometimes words, sometimes COVID-compliant masks, but that's the secret. We should stop seeing it as AI, because very soon it's just going to be cognitive tools embedded in your seat. The temperature control, the content that you talk to yourself and something answers back and gives you the answer. It's going to be ubiquitous. Think about it as you think about electricity. You don't talk about, I'm going to use electricity. You say, I'm going to go and have a flat white or listen to this song. And I suspect AI won't be talked about very soon because we're at the beginning of that inflection point. But if, like electricity, you can create a network that anybody can plug into and anybody can use to build something purposeful in itself, then that starts to create really interesting opportunities. About 6 years ago, I was in Dubai, and I met this gentleman who had just been appointed, age 26, as the world's first Minister for Artificial Intelligence. And it was a kind of random experiment that they were doing. And it seemed like a bit of a gimmick. But he was taking it seriously. And he realized that he had an amazingly powerful opportunity, which is to help ensure every government entity was collecting data which could create better citizen experiences, more efficient uses of resources. Everything from knowing how the traffic lights should be programmed to which kind of litter bins were needed in different conditions. But he was also thinking, AI at some stage, not yet, will be the skill set that we need to attract to the UAE. How can we make sure we're providing the conditions that allow foreign talent to come over? How can we ensure that the universities are teaching the skills of tomorrow? It looks like now one of the most far-sighted ministerial appointments anywhere. Every country needs their ministers of AI because it's going to be everywhere. But it's not top-down. It's not going to be a small number of people deciding. The real opportunity is when the revolution genuinely means power goes to the people. Because if you do give genuine access to these tools to anybody who wants to use them, no matter what their financial income bracket is, their age, their geography, magic can happen. Problems can be solved at scale. I was just reminded of, in this world of filmmaking, how radically redistributive of creative power generative AI has already been. There's a guy who works on motion pictures in California. He goes online by the name Jeff Synthesized, and he wanted to see if he could make a Pixar-quality movie trailer using the tools that were out there available to anyone, but his budget was about $200. And he created, just a few months ago, this using only AI tools.
From Neo Cinema, the studio you've never heard of, who are behind Synthetica and the Fifth Kind, brings you the first ever scripted AI animation with real-life actors. If we get 100...
And to me, this is an amazing democratization of creative filmmaking. And then a couple of months later, one of these AI translation tools was launched by 11 Labs, and he thought, I wonder if I can embed that in my movie and get it multilingual. So he did it in Spanish. So isn't the beauty of the open internet that creativity is widely distributed and everybody should have a chance to connect to that network? But the real benefit is going to be when we start thinking about solving real problems. And what I love about AI is it can solve the serious ones. Now, I work with a lot of climate tech entrepreneurs. I'm running an event in a couple of weeks, bringing together about 500 of them. Some of them are working on nuclear fusion. If you can solve fusion, you've kind of solved the whole climate change mess, because you turn energy into a universal, ubiquitous, almost free product. And AI is going to be key to this and other forms of decarbonization, designing new materials, but helping as a tool the most ambitious entrepreneurs using science to do things that matter.
Back in December, California scientists made a major breakthrough. A nuclear fusion reaction that produced more energy than was used to create. Well, scientists have done it again.
Look, we're not there yet, but there's lots of little signs that we could be there. And it's not going to be central government that solves it. They might help fund it. It's going to be entrepreneurs who run with it. And the same goes for rethinking our food system, designing new kinds of medications. But I'm thinking about climate change a lot at the moment. And technology is going to help. This is, on a logarithmic scale, the falling cost of solar energy over the last 50 years. It's turned something that was super expensive into almost free. We're going to get a lot more of that, but we just need to put these tools in everybody's hands. And I guess the last observation, you're not too late. This is the moment. There's nothing to stop you as these tools become more widely available, more useful, more applied as agents, using them to solve problems at scale that could become huge businesses, impact projects, or whatever. So one of my inspirations was the original editor of American Wired, Kevin Kelly. And he wrote a very interesting essay 10 years ago called You Are Not Late. And he was reflecting back 20 years earlier, 1994, when the World Wide Web was just taking shape. And they started at Wired for a bit of fun, registering domain names for big American companies that didn't know what the internet was. They registered Coca-Cola.com, McDonald's.com, and they rang up McDonald's and said, hey, we've got your internet address, would you like it? And he couldn't get through to anyone. Eventually they found the person who laughed and said, well, we sell burgers, why would we want to be on the World Wide Web? And he was saying, back in 1994, it was a green field. All the opportunities were still to be taken. There was no Amazon, certainly no Facebook. He said, this was in 2014, 10 years ago, we are in that same place because in 10 years from now, in 20 years from now, we're going to marvel at all the things that hadn't yet been built. People in the future will look at their holodecks and their wearable VR contact lenses and their downloadable avatars, their AI interfaces, and say, back then you didn't really have the internet, or whatever you called it. And he said, this is from 2014, this is the best time to start something on the internet. There's never been more opportunities, lower barriers, higher benefit to risk ratios, better returns, greater upside than now. And I feel we're there because this revolution is nascent. And it's not just going to be AI. It's going to be AI converging with all sorts of other exponential technology curves, like this one. The total number of space launches in the world from the 1950s. Look what happened. Elon makes a reusable space rocket. Suddenly the price comes down. You can do it quite a lot of times. It becomes really quite cheap to send satellites up into space or to do science experiments in zero gravity. Well, if you run a fiber broadband company, guess what? You've just been disrupted because anybody can set up a satellite company at not vast cost. What about robotics converging? This is the number of robots in Amazon's warehouses, but we are at a similar inflection point where the robots, like the large language models, are learning by themselves what to do. This is one of the Google robot projects. It was told simply, find the popcorn in the drawer. It wasn't told what popcorn looks like, what the drawer looks like, but they get better and better at learning. This is a company in the Netherlands that's using robots to lay bricks, because it's kind of hard to get people trained who want to lay bricks. We're at the beginning. We're going to get, in all sorts of fields, robots coming, working with AI, but learning by themselves. These are some of Elon's. I'm sure the Merode will be cleaned by these at some stage soon if Bruno thinks the aesthetics is going to work. I don't know. But any sector, agriculture, robot drones with computer vision knowing which apples to pick. Converging also with the emerging technologies like brain-computer interfaces, being able to read the signals of your brain. So let's say initially it starts with people with a clinical condition. This gentleman is paralyzed.
Like using the force on a cursor.
But he has a chip in his brain. and he can play games. He can interact with other people just by thinking.
I love playing chess, and so this is one of the
Look, I'm not saying we're all going to have chips in our brain, but over time, as the receptors get more sensitive, maybe there'll be some kind of cap that will read our thoughts. I don't know, but it's coming together with AI and robotics and metaverses, whatever they become. Again, this is a London company I'm involved with called Improbable that has created the way to simulate thousands and thousands of people in the same virtual space. So you can actually feel you're at that Taylor Swift concert, that baseball match. And what's interesting is transactions happen in that virtual world because people feel they're there. So there's a convergence. It's not just AI, it's anything connected. You know, we're even using sensors built into living things, the Internet of Clams, to see water quality in parts of Sweden. The ability to use digital plus biological sensors at the same time. It's all collecting data. So we've got everything connected, autonomous systems with AI, the ability to feel you're in a virtual space with new kind of interfaces, new kind of growth sectors. We haven't even started talking about quantum. It's going to not just be about AI, but AI is going to be at the center. Which means, I guess, it's going to be a really hard time to write science fiction because all the plots have been taken by reality. Remember, it was 10 years ago that there was this amazing film with Joaquin Phoenix falling in love with his AI avatar, played by Scarlett Johansson. It didn't end well. She had 5,000 other boyfriends in the app. Well, that was 10 years ago. Now, you can rent a virtual girlfriend, a virtual boyfriend. It's just another AI service. So I think sometimes we think about tech as if it's moving too fast. It's out of our control. We're not comfortable with it.
This morning, this video going viral, showing a self-driving car being pulled over by police in San Francisco.
This is crazy.
The car was pulled over because it was driving at night without headlights on. At first, it looks like an ordinary traffic stop. An officer gets out of his car to speak to the driver, only to discover
ain't nobody in it.
And then the car speeds away from the officers, passing through an intersection.
Because the car knows it's safe for the other side of the red light. The problem is not the tech. It's our psychology. It's our fear of this emerging new world that's different, but actually safer. Because this is where it's leading. So let's be optimists. Let's not try and overregulate this thing. Let's make sure it's fair and access is fair. Because there's lots of reasons to be optimistic. Obviously, I got ChatGPT to work with me on this. Look at what the network says AI is going to do for us. It's going to transform education. It's going to do individualized tutoring. It's going to optimize all sorts of industries. It's going to make accessibility better for people who can't see. It's going to boost environmental protection, creativity and innovation. So back in 1994, this is the first web browser I got to use. It was called Mosaic. Very, very slow dial-up internet. No color pictures. Very, very slow. Next year it became Netscape. We are back there when it comes to AI. This was Yahoo. This is the directory of the internet, handcrafted. This was the whole of the known internet back then. You are not late. This is the beginning. All that matters is, I guess, the psychology, because we are still humans, and it's how we think about it. And I think we need to think optimistically about, yes, how to ensure fair access, but how to use it to do things with impact. Because, you will be in that autonomous car going around the center of Brussels soon. And the first time you might be a bit anxious, but it is the future.
It's scary. Oh, there's cars coming. Oh, there's cars. Ah! Bill, just put me back for me control it. Oh, dear Jesus. I couldn't.
Why do you need to control it? It's there for you. Thank you.